The thing about happiness is that, like all of us are unique, happiness is unique. And it's okay if it's different from our parents' definition. It's okay if it's not what our bosses want. It's okay if it's not what our clients want. The only definition of happiness that matters is our own.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. For today, we have a very special guest all the way from Maui, the other side of the world. Her name is Laura DiBenedetto, and I've read her book, the first part, and I'm just gonna say I was blown away by what this woman has gone through in life. I couldn't believe the traumas that she have experienced. I have had a couple myself growing up, but in light of her story, mine looks like it is very, very small. And I just want to, I'm super excited that you guys are here and you guys are able to tune into this because this goes deeper than business, deeper than management, deeper than leadership. It is about happiness, which is a very big part of your personal well being. And I'm not going to keep you any longer. Laura, thank you so much for being here in the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me and for the really nice introduction.
Fantastic. I just want to open with the big question. What is happiness for you?
That's a great question. Happiness is subjective. It is something that is open to interpretation. It is something that we each have the invitation to define for ourselves. However, most of us don't realize that we get to define it for ourselves. I'm looking at all these awesome action figures behind you, and the podcast about leadership. And for you, that's probably a big part of the things that make you happy. For somebody else, they might really love reading books. Other people might really love playing video games, and other people might like building companies. Other people might like fishing and avoiding humans. The thing about happiness is that, like all of us are unique, happiness is unique. And it's okay if it's different from our parents' definition. It's okay if it's not what our bosses want. It's okay if it's not what our clients want. The only definition of happiness that matters is our own. For mine, honestly, mine's a little G-rated and boring. Mine is mostly just kind of hanging out. I like nature. I like just listening to the wind in the trees. I like quality time with my family and my friends and my fur babies and getting to see animals. I mean, to me, that's pretty much it. And like the happiest. And as part of that, sharing the joy and giving other people the pathway gives me a tremendous amount of joy and happiness. So, that's my definition. But it was only going through the hell that you pointed out in my book that gave me the permission to define it on my own, to search for a definition of any kind and realize that I always knew what my own happiness looked like. And I was trained to doubt myself because that's what culture does to us. That's what well-meaning parents and teachers do for us, is they train us to doubt ourselves. And I tried to check all the boxes and, like build a life that someone would be proud of on paper. And I did that only to find that there wasn't anything there at the end of the rainbow. Happiness is truly something that comes from within, and you need to be free to express yourself. And I love that you got all those action figures behind you. It means that you're doing you, and that's really what it's all about.
It's to cover up all of the crap behind it, actually. But yeah, it is a part of my collection, and I took the Reese Motivation Profile exam, and saving is one of my highest. My wife wouldn't say the same though, 'cause she looks at me as a spender. But what saving means is I could be saving money and I could be just collecting stuff and saving stuff. So apparently it is quite true for me, and everything except fishing is part of my happiness. So video games, reading books, I love doing those
That's
things. And
awesome.
yeah,
I
and,
don't
and
enjoy fishing because it requires a whole lot of sitting around, when I
yeah.
would rather just swim and hang out with the fish versus catch them and hook them. And but that's me.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. And what is so important about happiness? Why do you give it such weight? Especially when I read about it in your book, The Six Habits, you gave it so much weight. There's a lot of times that you mention it, and the six habits are there for you to have happiness in your life. And I just want the audience to know what is so important about happiness.
So happiness is basically it's the reason why people do the things we do. We get married because we're pursuing happiness. We have children because we're pursuing happiness. We start companies because we're pursuing happiness. We do a lot of different things because we're pursuing happiness. And that's ultimately what we really want. And when we're chasing money, it's because we think it's going to buy us happiness. Meanwhile, listen, I spent 20 years in executive leadership, and I can tell you that it's really nice having money. It's really nice traveling the world. It's really nice, traveling and seeing stuff and meeting people and building companies and doing all the things. It really is. But they give you short bursts of temporary happiness, right? And that's why we continue to chase them. It's because we haven't found the kind that's lasting. And it's very easy for us to get caught in the cycle of chasing more, right? So I know you're not in America, and I'll tell you one of the things about American culture is, a lot of people, when they heard that I retired at 37 and that I've done all these things with my life, they're like, wow, well, what's next for you? Is it a crime to admit that nothing is next, that just enjoying what I've achieved and enjoying being here is actually the goal? Like, there is no next. This is it. As Americans, we are trained to constantly, just achieve, 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 achieve for the sake of achievement, but not for enjoyment. And I believe that life is for savoring and enjoyment.
So you retired a year ago, is that right?
Well, I'm creeping up on 40, so no, it's been like 2 years.
2 years. Well, but that's still quite current. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it
It's a
was
dream.
yes. Well, that was the thing that was the catalyst for me writing the book, because I discovered that once I had actually retired and gotten there, I wasn't any happier. And you would think you would be, because America says achieve, 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 and I did. But happiness is not at the end of that rainbow. I mean, granted, I would rather cry on Maui than I would, in my small town where I grew up. Um, you know, Wipe my tears away with tropical leaves, but that's fine. But happiness really truly comes from within, and that was the thing I never realized until I stopped running and chasing, that was the thing that I never paid attention to. So that's where, I just wanted to, I guess, wake up.
And your message, I just want to say, is super timely because a lot of people today, it is quite strange, I would say, that they are having so many problems at home. It is just perplexing to me that I run a company of 50 people. So they are all younger than me. I'm 31, turning 32 this year. I realize that a lot of them would tell me, I'm not happy. The home is a toxic environment. We have problems at home. I have a parent who has cancer. My parents are getting divorced. And I'm like, at this season, all of these things start happening. And the whole lot of them are not happy. And so your message is super duper timely. I actually want to share this with them so that they would be uplifted somewhat, or they would know the steps to take to be happier, and to just try to be able to get over all of these things happening at their home, because it's just saddening what's happening with especially
Well,
my team.
this is what makes you a good leader, is you care about your people and you care about their well-being. And money's nice, success is nice, but the people that help you get there are so important. And they're not just numbers, they're not just team members, they're part of a family that's helping you do something, whether you all call it that or not. And wanting to invest in their well-being as humans and making sure they're actually happy and fulfilled will do wonders for you, and making sure that you yourself are happy and fulfilled. Kind of the modern hallmark of unconventional and disruptive leadership, which is kind of my style.
That's good. And so I want to jump in from that springboard. I want to ask, why do people lose their happiness?
People lose their happiness because as adults, we constantly basically destroy it in children. Children, like when you are reading the book and when you get all the way through it, you're going to discover that a lot of the things in there are things that were born knowing how to do. So the 6 habits are kindness. Kids are not, little toddlers are naturally kind to each other and kind to themselves. Acceptance. We learn not accepting ourselves from our parents and from others. And we learn to not be grateful, and we learn to not be present, and we learn to allow toxic things into our lives and to avoid good things. And intention is the only one that is
Leo, you have to go out first, huh?
it's a skill that we
I'm
have to
recording.
acquire, but it
Love
is a
you.
habit. So there's 5 of these things that we were born with, but society wants us to be on time, wants us to be behaved, it wants us to be respectful, and put yourself last, and put others before you, and things like that. And I think while the pursuit of a lot of these goals are noble, I don't think they've ultimately served our culture as a whole planet very well. What you have is a bunch of very, very damaged parents raising what they don't yet know are very damaged children, because people are passing on the damage that they've inherited, and that their parents inherited, that their grandparents inherited. And because all these rules about children are better seen and not heard. You ever hear that one? I sure did. And you need to behave yourself, and no, we'll be on time, and don't interrupt, and make sure you're on time, and all these things. They're all well-meaning good things that help us function as a civilized society, right? But the execution of them has destroyed the light inside of a lot of children, and it's taken like you at one point, just like me. You were like 3, and you were little, and and special and innocent, and you didn't know about like bad stuff. You learned that, like racism, that's learned. But when we treat ourselves really, really well, and then we go on to raise children, they learn from what we do, not what we say. So I think that it begins very, very young. I don't think that it's school that does it. I think it begins in the home. I think it's familial and passed down the generations unconsciously. I think workplaces seek to reinforce the destructive nature of civilized society. It's almost like the needs of civilized society come before the needs of the whole individual. And while I appreciate that, if you nurture, heal, and grow the individual, you actually nurture, heal, and grow the civilization. And that's where we're currently getting it wrong. So I have a goal to influence 1 billion people. So within 2 generations, we can start raising happier, more complete children that automatically walk out into the world knowing this stuff. And this book will be irrelevant because we actually got it right.
Sounds like your next big thing.
I'm working on it, man.
So you actually have that next thing right now, but it's bigger than just, being an entrepreneur. And now I want to, so I have read the book, our listeners haven't, and I just want to give a little bit more background as to what happened, because I'm going to be springboarding my next question from there. And so you went through all of this trauma, being kind of the outcast from students, classmates, workmates. I have no idea why they would do that to you, why you would have to go through all of that process of actually being traumatized and being rejected and being, downcast and miserable. And it comes from a lot of external stimulus, because you say that happiness comes from within, but you have external stimulus that's affecting you. And now I wonder, if you could go back in time, would you do some things differently? Would you change some of those things? I mean, I'm curious because
Good question.
those things that happened kind of made you who you are, made you more gritty, made you more resilient, made you perhaps gave you the building blocks you needed to retire at 37 years old, which is the dream. So that think about it a little bit. I'm very interested in what you have to say.
There's no thought required. I've been asked this question before, and I know exactly how I feel about this. I regret perhaps sometimes being a jerk to my mom when I was a kid and not calling my grandma enough before she died. And I regret that. But beyond that, I would not change any single thing about my life trajectory, the abuse, the bullying, the bankruptcy, the hard times, all the failures, because they brought me to be where I am. And it was only chasing the dream and then falling so far short of it with my unique DNA and everything that made me who I am that gave me the strong enough desire to go on a quest, a very selfish quest, I admit, to solve my own discomfort and dis-ease, right, within. And as a result, I found something that I am beyond qualified to share with other people. I've done the research. I've been an executive for 20 years. I have lots of business acumen behind me to have all of this like support and know how to actually get this wisdom out into the world. So if this is what I am supposed to do, if this is my purpose in the world, is to go through essentially 37 years of doing it the wrong way so I can spend perhaps the next 37 or more giving people love, light, freedom, joy, and helping to change generations to come, seems like a small price to pay.
You mentioned purpose. Now I'm wondering, how important is purpose to your happiness, and how do you find your purpose?
Purpose, I think, matters to some people and it doesn't matter to others. It really depends on who you are as a person. There are some people that really couldn't give two figs about purpose. Whatever. They just, want to go out and have fun. And that's cool. I mean, life is here for living. And that's the thing. I'm not here to tell anyone what the definition of happiness is. For some people, purpose is extremely important. But the way that you find it is it's varied for every person. There's actually a guide that it's on my website that I give to people for free. It's all about it's 24 different ways that you can find it, but I'm trying to think some of the ways that you can do it. One is journaling. Two, you can spend a lot of time solo to really explore your thoughts. You can meditate, you can sit with friends. And if you think that your purpose is tied to profession, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, you can go the extra route of doing internships just to try things out. There's honestly, the only wrong way to discovering your purpose is to not try to discover your purpose. If you just try hard enough, long enough, you'll find it. It's the people that give up or they get frustrated early on that never find it. Sometimes it could take 20 years.
Yep,
Depends on how hard you look.
that's right. That's true.
Frustrating, but true. I'm really good at giving crappy answers that nobody wants. I
Well,
was chatting with someone today about marketing and she's like, oh, so what about this? And how much is this going to cost? I'm like, I'm about to give you the best answer ever. Ready? It depends. Yeah.
well, that's the right answer with marketing usually. Yeah, so I run an SEO and digital marketing company. That's usually my answer. It depends.
Correct.